Hello and welcome back to Basketball Talk for episode 1 of our NBA weekly recap show, where we cover the NBA games that have been played throughout that week. So for this week in particular, we're going to cover a week and a half based off the time the NBA season started. For the format of this, we're going to cover all the games that have been played, focusing on one in particular on each day. We're then going to summarise the wins and losses. Then we're going to look at some news around the league. And then we're going to finish with some picks for Rookie of the Week and Player of the Week.
Yeah, sounds good. I like it.
So to kick things off, Scott, the first game that was played on the 18th of October was Philadelphia 76ers at the Boston Celtics.
It looks like it was quite a decent game, to be fair. I always think when the first week starts, there's always a little bit of players feeling rusty, guys not being in rhythm, that type of thing. So I always think you can get a little bit of a mixed bag, in terms of the game. But it looks to have been a pretty decent game, relatively close throughout all of it. We've got some decent performances from James Harden, almost looking a little bit like Houston Rockets James Harden. Would you agree there? With dropping a lot of points, shooting quite efficiently, which is nice to see.
Yeah, he had 35 points. Sixers gave a good effort, but it wasn't good enough as they lost 126 to 117. Overall, it looked to be a decent game. I've seen some highlights from this. I was happy to see the Celtics win. Got off to a winning start.
Good. What about Celtics? Who was kind of the key player? Who was the guy standing out for them?
So Jason Tatum had 35 points. We had Marcus Smart with 14. Jaylen Brown had 35 as well. So really, it was the big three, so to speak, formed and got them the win.
Malcolm Brogdon looked like a nice intro as well. Looking at that, 16 points, 4 assists. If you're going to get that kind of production off the bench week in, week out, I think that's pretty decent from Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah, it's a strong start as well with a new coach. So for the game of focus this week, we're going to look at the Los Angeles Lakers visiting the Golden State Warriors. They lost 123 to 109. Jordan Poole got his first ring. He had 12 points with 7 assists, and he had no black eye. What's your thoughts, Scott?
I'm glad it healed up for him. I always love the first game in which you're getting the ring ceremony. I love seeing the banner. I love kind of seeing them raise that to the rafters, because when you win the championship, it's always nice to see, kind of the reward that comes from it. So, yeah, I always love seeing the raising of the banner and the rings. Did you get a chance to look at the Golden State Warriors ring? It was quite inventive with the way you can move part of the ring and it reveals how many championships you've won as a player. So I thought it was a really cool design. The game itself, with it being a first game of the season, a little bit clunky to start off with. Anthony Davis racked up some points early on, but I think the big difference you could take away from this really was the lack of movement on the Lakers offense. Not too many screens, people almost standing around like statues, and I think there's a difference between working for a jump shot and settling for a jump shot. And I think that, to me, when I was watching the game, Golden State Warriors are setting solid screens, people are moving, getting space and taking a good shot, whereas it felt like the Lakers were just dribbling up the court, everybody standing still, and nobody's really moving, if that makes sense.
It's worth noting that they got outscored 3 of the 4th quarters.
I think it was a game that, obviously first match of the season, it can feel a bit clunky, but for the Lakers it felt very disjointed. I'm not sure how this roster is going to mesh too well together. From what I've
seen, it looked like they were settling on taking many bad shots.
Yeah, I think if you look at the 3-point percentage, it was about 20%, which you're not going to win many games shooting like that. And it's not that the Golden State Warriors were elite from 3-point range. I think they only shot about 34% themselves. But it's just the difference, isn't it? It's if you work to get an open shot, you've got a better chance. If you're just dribbling up the court and nobody's moving for the ball, you have to take what's given to you.
And if you look at the numbers, obviously LeBron had 31 and 15, which sounds brilliant. But as you said, then when you look at the 3-point attempts, it was 3 of 10. None of the team did well. 0-3 for Anthony Davis from 3, 1 from 5 for Pat Bev, 1 of 3 for Russell Westbrook. Yeah, overall it's pretty poor.
There's no one there that you're kicking the ball out to and go and get a wide open 3 for us or anything like that. And 21 turnovers for the Lakers. You're going to give up a lot of fast break points. So just, again, not the most perfect start for opening night.
Yeah, but they were 10 for 40,
Yeah, so 25%. Yeah, sorry, it was 25%, not 20%. But overall, it was still a fun game to watch. If you're a Golden State Warriors fan, it was really fun to watch for the obvious reasons of getting your rewards for all the hard work of last season. By all means, the opening week isn't the be-all, end-all. Some teams will win a sneaky game here, some teams will drop a game that they shouldn't. But just, on the eye test, it just looked an awful lot like one team was stood round and thinking something's going to happen, whereas the other team was much more creative.
What do you think of the Golden State Warriors? Curry had 33, Clay had 18, Wiggins had 20.
Andrew Wiggins is slowly turning into a really, really good two-way player, which at some point in his career, he was kind of looked at as a guy whose contract was really bad, if you remember, especially that Timberwolves team they had. At the minute, he's looking great in that role.
I think he's improving because he's not the main focal point. Mm-hmm. The pressure's not on him, so to speak. Well, it is, but it's not just him. It's not the one-man show, is it? So
no, and I think he fits in with this roster really well. And one of the other takes I had from the game watching it was one of the takes I had from the game looking at the backup for the Golden State Warriors, the combination of DiVincenzo, Wiseman, Kuminga, and Jordan Poole. That may be the best quartet of 4 players coming off the bench for any roster, in my opinion. You don't drop off too much in terms of the quality of production. And I just, when you've seen them come on the floor, it didn't look like the Lakers could handle the bench, never mind the starters, in my opinion.
So to move on to the 19th of October, we had the Detroit Pistons beating Orlando Magic 113-109. Mm-hmm. Paulo Banchero had 27, 5 assists, and 9 rebounds.
Yep.
It was a good performance overall, but it was a losing effort, to say the least.
I like Paulo Banchero. I was quite impressed with his start, to be honest. And as an opening stat line to an NBA career, 27, 9 and 5, that's pretty good. And he also, to throw it in there, a couple of blocks as well, that's not too bad. I really like that Jalen Suggs as well was looking pretty decent here. He had 21 points on some solid efficiency there, 8 for 11 from the field. That's just really, really good. So, yeah, this Magic team, I think we covered it in the last talk we had in regards to just being really young and energetic. They're probably not going to rack up too many wins, but it doesn't look like they got totally dominated there. Apart from, well, to be fair, looking at that second quarter where they allowed Detroit to score 40 points, they're probably not too happy about that, to be honest.
The Wizards got the first win as they beat the Pacers by 7. We had the Raptors win by 3 against Cleveland. The Bulls beat the Heat 116-108. The Pelicans beat the Nets 130-108. Quite a big shock. Yeah, Zion had a good game that game.
He did indeed. It was nice to see him back. Nice to see him healthy and doing something. And yeah, I always think with the first week with any sport, not just basketball. I always think the first weeks of things you can see a few shock results, and you can see some games where you think that probably shouldn't have gone that way. But yeah, in terms of the Pelicans game, probably feel quite proud about putting that pain on the Nets.
The Hawks beat the Rockets 117-107. We had the Timberwolves 115-108 over the Thunder. The Jazz won, which wasn't expected, 123-102 over the Denver Nuggets.
Yep.
The Kings lost to the Trailblazers 115-108. The Suns got revenge on the Dallas Mavericks 107-105.
Did you see that game, by the way? That was a buzzer beater. Buzzer beater from, I believe it was Damian Lee, I think. And it was, sorry, not a buzzer beater. He scored to go ahead, and then Luka or someone had a chance towards the end to try and get a win. And I just remember thinking, that's the Suns getting their little moment back for what we did in Game 7. So
then to close it out, we had the Hornets beat the Spurs 129-102. And then for the game of focus today, we picked the Grizzlies versus the Knicks, which finished 115-112. It looked to be quite a close game throughout.
Yeah, it looks as though it was pretty back and forth throughout most of the game. Again, in terms of field goal percentage, neither team was lights out. Both teams kind of shooting low 40s, late 30s field goal percentage. Doesn't look as though there was much in it in regards to being close in the game and things like that. Julius Randle's put up a double-double. Nice to see. Let's see if he can keep it up. A few years ago, he was an all-star and he was looking like a guy who could be built around in New York, and he slipped off a little bit, unfortunately.
Brunson had 15, 9 assists and 6 rebounds, so that was quite good.
Can't argue with that. Solid little outing from Jalen Brunson. I think we've spoken about whether he's going to be able to do it for the whole season, but as a platform to build off, I don't think there's any shame in that stat line. I think that's pretty decent.
John Morant had 34 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds, and a block.
Yeah, he's looking like Phenomenal. He's taking that next leap, isn't it?
Desmond Bain had 16. Overall, I think it was a good performance from the Memphis Grizzlies. Said it went to overtime. Pretty good for the Grizzlies, I think. Probably was a bit closer than what you would have thought, but
if you're the Grizzlies, maybe the one thing you're worried about here is the fact that New York have got 68 points in the paint. That's maybe something you're looking at and thinking, we have to change that, because if you're going to give up that many points so easily, you're going to find it hard to stay in games, I think. So there's a 20-point difference, really, isn't there, 68-48. If the Grizzlies are going to want to be a team that's in the top 3, that's really pushing on to contend for a title, you probably need to limit the
well, that was probably their letdown, because on the flip side, obviously the Grizzlies shot 12% better from free. So usually you think if you're shooting 12% better from free, you'd think it would be a convincing win. But as you said, giving up points in the paint just diminishes that, doesn't it? So
anytime you give up easy chances near the rim, you're always gonna find it hard to dominate a game, I think, because you're just allowing a team to get back into it. But for Memphis, they'll look at this as it was a win. That's really good. If you're Memphis Grizzlies, this is the game you should be winning as well. This is a game you should be taking it to them and racking up some wins here. So, yeah, but all in all, good performance from Memphis by the looks of it. So we're going to move on now to the 20th of October. There was only a couple of games that were played on this day. So the Clippers played the Lakers in a very, very close game and a winnable game for the Lakers, but it was a 6-point win for the Clippers, 103-97. For the Clippers, some really good production from John Wall, 7 of 15 from the field, 15 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds and a steal. We also saw Paul George as well playing pretty convincingly, playing okay, but not always shooting the best, but still managing to get to 15 points and 10 rebounds and 4 assists. This was also the game in which Russell Westbrook did have the 0 for 11 game, came in for a lot of flack, if we will, for his performance during the game. LeBron was able to put up 20 and 10, Anthony Davis with 25 and 8, but this was a game in which the Lakers dropped to 0 and 2. However, the game for us to focus on was the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Milwaukee Bucks. What was your take on this one, Ryan? What were we thinking while we were looking at this
overall,
one?
I think it's going to be the Eastern Conference Finals. That was my pick.
Yep.
For the Eastern Conference Finals, wasn't it? So, as you can see, it was a close game. It looked to be a tight game. Not a super high scoring the way
nice
games
to see it.
Become now.
Yeah, nice to see it in a way.
Defensive orientated. It looks pretty close throughout. Obviously, the Bucks won the first and third quarter, and then obviously Philly took the other two. So, and to only win by 2, it speaks for itself that it was close.
Yeah.
Giannis had 21 with 13 rebounds. He had 3 blocks, 8 assists. So, really good overall. Obviously, the points could probably be a bit higher for him, but other than that, brilliant performance. Lopez done well as well. Got some production from Allen. He had 12 points. From Philly, PJ Tucker had 5. You had Embiid with 15, Moxley with 15. Harden played phenomenal with 31, with 8 and 9. So, yeah, really, it could have went either way.
I think for Embiid, he's probably going to look back at this game and feel like he probably could have done a bit more. 6 for 21 from the field isn't particularly great. It's a pretty poor night shooting for Joel Embiid, that really, isn't it? And I think in terms of him going up against another MVP candidate, is he going to sit back and look at this and go, I should have played better, I should have maybe asserted myself a little bit more, that type of thing. But in terms of, for Philadelphia, if you're going to get the level of production from Harden, in this game, I know he was 1 for 7 from 3, but aside from that, his turnovers, 2 turnovers to 9 assists, brilliant. It's exactly what you'd want from someone distributing the ball. He's scoring the ball relatively efficiently, apart from the 3-point shooting. Tyrese Maxey will probably be a little bit upset he's not managed to shoot a little bit better as well. For Philly, it's a winnable game. It's just one of them maybe early ones.
It is, and I think if they both play well instead of Embiid, they may even run away with it by 12 points or so.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing with Philly. If you can get them both playing well together instead of just one or the other, then they'll be a force to be reckoned with. But obviously, until then, it's a bit. They're going to be there and thereabouts in every game. Really, they shouldn't really be blown out because of the quality.
No, definitely not.
But that doesn't really move Philly on from the Philly they were last year.
No.
To take them over the hump, you need both players being of star quality.
Yeah, as close to the best as humanly possible. And again, like 20% from 3 from Philadelphia 76ers. I think in
3-point was awful, yeah.
Yeah, I think in this day and age now, you can't really expect to win many games if you're shooting like that from 3-point range. It's unlikely to happen, isn't it? Again, it's the opening week.
To only lose by 2 shows the defensive effort as well, though.
Mm-hmm. I really like the fact that this game wasn't a 135, 125. I quite like that it was a little bit of a rollback to the older days where teams were, maybe finishing 85, 90 type of games. So the fact that it doesn't happen too often is sometimes quite nice to see, even if there's not as many points scored in the game.
Yeah, so if you enjoy a good, probably more physical defensive game, it was a good game to watch.
Yeah, instead of maybe just the out-and-out 3-point shooting that we see.
Yeah. For the 21st of October, there was 11 games in total, and we've picked the Chicago Bulls versus the Washington Wizards. Overall, that game was 102 to 100 to the Washington Wizards. They picked up the first win, I believe, of the season.
Yeah, I think it would have been. And for the Wizards, I didn't know what to make of this team coming into the season. I wasn't sure whether this was going to be a team that was pushing to get wins or whether they're going to tank or anything like that. But nice to see them play well. Nice to see, Kuzma, 26 points, 6 rebounds. A guy who was probably overlooked a few years ago in a trade, but it's looking like he's settling in Washington now. Like he's maybe found his home type of thing. So yeah, nice to see him play well.
19 and 8, but DeRozan on the other side had 32 and 6 and 6 rebounds as well. So a good overall performance for DeRozan, I think. Yeah. Other than he was 0 from 2, but he only took 2 from 3, so it's not really that bad.
I don't think he's someone who maybe chucks up too many threes anyway, to be totally honest. He's more of a mid-range assassin, isn't he? That's usually where he does his work and things.
Porzingis, your favourite player, had 14 and 3. That was pretty good for him. Well, pretty good for him, really, because he can really go hit and miss.
He has his moments. I don't actually dislike Porzingis. I just wish he would have played better when he was with us. But I wish him all the best of luck in Washington. I'd love to see him do well and see the Wizards progress and move on a little bit more. So, but yeah, I think it looks like a pretty decent game. I think it's always interesting with the first games because you never really know what to expect. But it does look as though the Wizards are a little bit more efficient from the floor. Obviously makes it easier in terms
9% more accurate from the free throw line. They were 90%, well 90.9% to 81.8.
Big difference though in free throws attempted, isn't there? So 11 for the Wizards and 33 for Chicago. So it's looking there like Chicago were either getting more favourable calls or were just playing more aggressively.
From free, they were then 13% more accurate with 38.5 to Chicago's 25.9%.
Yeah.
Overall, looked like a decent game to watch. I watched some highlights. It was good to see Beal play again. I enjoy watching Bradley Beal. But a close one overall again.
Yeah, I think the assists are a big difference there as well. 26 to 19. So the Wizards are effectively creating better shots, getting open looks. Again, we've kind of talked about that with some of the other games and things. But if the team is moving, if the team's creating space, you get better looks. There's a better chance to hit it, isn't it?
So to summarise the other 10 games for that day, we had the Pelicans beat the Hornets, 124 to 112. We had the Spurs beat the Pacers, the battle of the two tankers, but it was two really high-scoring teams. So it was 137 for the Spurs, 134 for the Pacers.
That's ridiculous. Do you remember when we were first getting into basketball? 137, 134.
Usually a game was about 92 to 89, something like that, a close game.
Yeah, 137, 134. Back when we were first getting into basketball,
there was just no defence played by the looks of it on that one.
That would have been a triple overtime score. That's the norm now.
The Nets beat the Raptors by 4 points, 109 to 105. We had the Celtics pick up a win against the Miami Heat, 111 to 104. The Nets blew out the Pistons, 130 to 106. Looks to be a good performance. Hawks 108 over the Magic. They had 98. Jazz were 132 to Timberwolves 126 in an overtime win. Grizzlies beat the Rockets 129 to 122. We had the Trailblazers win 113 to 111 over the Suns, which is a bit of a shock win as well. And then to close out for that day, we then had the Warriors lose to the Denver Nuggets 128 to 123. That could be another semi-finals in the Western Conference potentially.
You'd think so. In the early part of the season, I suppose anything can happen. Denver will. I think if you're a contending team, whenever you're facing another contender, you're going into it and really wanting to win. So I'm sure it's a game the Nuggets will feel they need to get that one back. The next time they play Golden State, they're going to want to get a win. So, but yeah, early part of the season, I suppose pretty much anything can happen, can't it? So we're going to take a look at the games from the 22nd of October next. There was a total of 9 games. We saw the San Antonio Spurs pick up a win against the Philadelphia 76ers, 114-105. A little bit of an upset there. The Detroit Pistons played the Pacers. The Pacers came out on top, 124 to 115. We saw the Celtics land a win against the Orlando Magic, 126-120. We also saw the Miami Heat pick up a win against the Toronto Raptors and obviously Eastern Conference rivals, 112-109. The Cleveland Cavaliers absolutely dominated the Chicago Bulls, 128-96, before the Bucks pretty much did the same thing to the Houston Rockets with a 125-105 win. The Dallas Mavericks were shooting on all cylinders and absolutely torched the Memphis Grizzlies, 137-96. and the Denver Nuggets picked up a good win against the Oklahoma City Thunder, 122-117 in a really close game. But speaking of close games, in terms of the game for focus for that night, we're looking at the LA Clippers and the Sacramento Kings. This game finished 111-109. So taking a quick look at this game, it really does look as close as it's suggested in the box score, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, I watched most of this game. It was a good game to watch. From the 3-point percentage, it was identical, basically. Yeah. Free throw percentage, it was lopsided, completely lopsided. So you'd think they would have picked up more points there.
Yeah.
90% to Sacramento's 57% from the foul line. Anytime you're shooting like that from the foul line, you should be losing the game.
As a team, yeah, you should never. I can understand one player shooting that poorly from the free throw line, but as a team, you shouldn't be doing that.
They had the same amount of assists. Other than that poor percentage from the free throw line, a lot of it was relatively close, to be fair.
I think what kept the Kings in it is the fact they hit 5 more 3-pointers than the Clippers. So yes, it was the same percentage, but the volume was just obviously significantly higher. So although they left points at the free throw line, they gave themselves a chance to get back in the game through, more volume based 3-point shooting. So
Kevin Huerter had 5 of 8 from 3-point range as well. I was excited to see him play for the Kings. He played well. Fox had 36 points for the Kings. Harrison Barnes had 8 and 7 rebounds.
Domantas Sabonis looks like he had a near triple-double, 11 points,
10
rebounds, 7 assists.
Yeah, so. And then in terms of the Clippers, you had Paul George with 40 points, played brilliantly. He had 6 assists, he had 6 rebounds. Zubac also had 10 points and 8. So John Wall didn't play this game, a bit of load management, but Kawhi Leonard come off the bench to score 11 points.
Yeah. Again, I think he's still getting eased in post-injury, and I think did he miss the full year last year? He played in 2 games, I can't remember, but it was pretty much the entire year Kawhi Leonard missed, so a little bit of load management. Paul George, 40 points. I mean, yeah, if he can have some more nights like that, the Clippers are going to be absolutely lethal, but close game. Again, it looks as though it was the 3-point shooting that really kept the Kings in it, but ultimately, Clippers come out with the win in the end.
For the 23rd of October, we had 7 games in total. We had the Lakers lose again, this time to the Trailblazers in a 106-104 loss. The Hornets beat the Hawks 126-109. The Wizards lost to the Cavaliers 117-107. The Timberwolves beat the Thunder 116-106. We had the Golden State Warriors beat the Kings 130-125. Close game, considering where you'd expect the Kings to finish.
Yeah, definitely.
The Suns beat the Clippers 112-95. But the game and focus of the day we chose was the Jazz and the Pelicans. The Jazz won shockingly in a 122-121 win.
He's accidentally created a super team, Danny Ainge, hasn't he? He's gone from trading Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert for what seemed to be, let's get some picks, let's make sure we don't have a particularly great record. But out of nowhere, the Utah Jazz, spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't know, they're playing really well. They've got quite a few wins already, and they're playing really good basketball. So Larry Markkinen, 31 points and 12 rebounds. Jordan Clarkson with 18 points and 6 assists. Mike Conley wasn't particularly efficient in the shooting, but ultimately the team is just, it's weird because when you read it, you'd look at this team and say, probably shouldn't be playing as good as it is, but it's just working for some reason. And in this game, they played really well together. And looking at the Pelicans, again, a game in which Zion was healthy to play. He had 25 points to go along with 6 rebounds. We saw CJ McCollum get a double-double with 28 and 12. A little bit of production off the bench as well from Larry Nance. But incredibly close game for these two teams. Particularly, the Jazz have just surprised me at the minute. I don't know about yourself, but I think
they're just surprising a lot of teams. Where the teams are just walking in
to
play the Utah Jazz expecting to get an easy win. And then into the third quarter thinking they're not going away. And then they're coming up short, essentially.
No, it's a really, really strange one to see with Utah. Definitely not what I was expecting, but at the minute, they look to be playing well together, even though that group probably shouldn't be playing as well as they are. But yeah, nice to see from them, and it looks like a really close game. So for anybody who's looking for a close one, get it on the League Pass. So we're going to move on to the 24th of October now, where there was a total of 8 games played in the NBA. We saw the Philadelphia 76ers pick up a win against the Pacers, 120-106. The New York Knicks were able to beat the Orlando Magic, 115-102. The Chicago Bulls got quite a convincing win against the Boston Celtics, 120-102. Quite a hammering, really. And the Houston Rockets were able to beat the Jazz 114-108, ending the unbeaten run for the Utah Jazz at the time. The Memphis Grizzlies took a 10-point win over the Brooklyn Nets, 134-124. San Antonio Spurs caught a win, 115-106 over the Timberwolves. And the Portland Trailblazers absolutely smashed the Denver Nuggets, 135-110 as well. The game in focus for this day in particular, though, was the match between the Raptors and the Heat, which finished 98-90. Taking a quick look at this game, I think in terms of the three-point shooting being king in the NBA, this game really reinforces it. One team 14-32, one team 8-34.
Yeah. 20% higher for the Toronto Raptors. Anytime you're shooting 20% more, really you'd expect it to be a bit more of a convincing win.
You would expect it, definitely expect it to be a little bit more one-sided, but for whatever reason the Miami Heat were able to stay in the game. I think it's just one of those times though where you can't expect to win games when you're shooting that poorly, and the fast break points, it's almost, well, it is double, isn't it? It's 27-13 in favour of the Toronto Raptors. So the game was able to be kept close, though. Again, maybe this is a case of Miami getting to the foul line a little bit more and getting a few more free throws in there to keep it close. Spicy P, 23 points and 9 rebounds. Love seeing that guy play well.
Van Vliet had 24 points and 9 assists. So, yeah, a good contribution all around from the team, I think.
Yeah. Toronto's star players are picking it up and playing well. In Miami, what do we see? Jimmy Butler had a really efficient game. Not only just scoring, but 8-15 from the field, 8-9 from the foul line, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 turnover sorry, not 8 assists, 4 assists, but still 1 turnover from one of your key players is always valuable to get. So, yeah, looks as though
Tyler Hero had 22 points and 15 rebounds. That's phenomenal.
Rebounds for Tyler Hero.
He's put as a point guard. He's not really a point guard, but
that could easily be his career high in rebounds that he's ever pulled down a single game. That's pretty impressive.
But yeah, overall, looked like another good game to watch. So for the 25th of October, there was 4 games in total. The New Orleans Pelicans picked up a win against the Dallas Mavericks in a 113-111. The Wizards picked up a win against the Detroit Pistons, 120-99. Thunder beat the Clippers 108-94, and then for the game of focus this week, we've got the Phoenix Suns versus the Golden State Warriors. The Suns beat the Warriors 134-105 in a very, very convincing win. Overall, they played brilliantly. It's 41% from the 3-point line. Maybe the Warriors had a bit of an off game to shoot 28%.
Yeah, not something you're going to expect to see from them week in, week out, is it?
No, they out-rebounded them. They shot better from the foul line. Basically, most things in all was just far better from the Phoenix Suns. Wiggins had 16. You had Green, who had 14 as well. Curry had 21. Thompson didn't really contribute. He had 2 points.
This is the ejection game.
You got ejected.
I've got more rings than you, and Devin Booker said you've got more rings than points, which is factually correct. You only had 2 points at the time of the game.
Devin Booker played brilliantly. He had 34 points with 7 assists. Chris Paul had 16 points with 7 rebounds and 9 assists. Ayton had 14 rebounds, phenomenal.
That's really impressive.
With 16 points. So he looks to be settling in Phoenix well, although, there was that bit of disarray before the season starts with the coach Monty Williams. Fingers crossed they settle back in together and things play out well.
I'm glad it doesn't seem as though it has fractured the relationship too much. Maybe this is slightly off topic for the game, but it doesn't seem as though Phoenix are missing a beat at the moment. They're still playing well. They're still
they're 3-1 at the time of this game. So.
So I'm glad to see that it's not being a case of there was a little bit of trouble in the off season in regards to the contract around Ayton, and it kind of fractured the team, if that makes sense. I'm glad that they're able to put it behind them and pick up a massive win against the defending champions. We're now going to take a look at Wednesday, the 26th of October. A total of 10 games were played in the NBA. Cleveland Cavaliers picked up a 103-92 win over the Orlando Magic. The New York Knicks managed to get a really close win against the Charlotte Hornets, 134-131. The Toronto Raptors with a convincing win over the Philadelphia 76ers, 119-109. The Milwaukee Bucks were able to put a little bit of pain on the Brooklyn Nets season with a 110-99 win. Chicago Bulls beat the Indiana Pacers, 124-109. Minnesota Timberwolves were able to snatch a victory against the San Antonio Spurs, 134-122. The Utah Jazz continued their absolute dominance over the NBA as a new super team, 109-101 over the Houston Rockets. The Denver Nuggets inflicted just a little bit more pain into the LA Lakers season with a 110-99 victory, and the Miami Heat were able to get a really convincing win against the Portland Trail Blazers, 119-98. And for this particular evening, the game in focus we looked at in a little bit more detail was the Atlanta Hawks and the Detroit Pistons. So I know you're having a little bit of a look at this a few minutes ago, Ryan. What was your take on Pistons versus Hawks?
Overall, it looks to be a good game. Trae Young played brilliantly. I'm a big Trae Young fan, so that was good. He didn't shoot well from free, though, which doesn't tend to be the case anyway. I like Trae Young, but he doesn't always have the best three-point percentage. Free throw line, he shot 80% from the line, which is good. Trae Young had 35, I believe.
Yeah, I think that was correct.
He did. He had 35 points and 6 assists, which was good. Murray contributed really well. He had 14 points, but he also had 8 assists and 8 rebounds.
Near triple-double, can't argue.
So you can't argue with that, no. Collins had 19 and 11 as well. Good overall performance for the Hawks, I think. I think sometimes just a bit of poor decision-making and stuff, and throwing up shots a bit early sometimes, I feel, with the Hawks tends to be the case.
They made a good job in this game of getting more points in the paint, 56-42. That's a really good omen for the Hawks, because I think if you settle too much for jump shots and you want to become a three-point shooting team, when you get cold, you lose all your traction, don't you? Whereas here, pounding the ball into the paint, getting some more opportunities, I think that's a really good omen for the Hawks and moving forward and things like that. And to quickly look at the Pistons as well, Bogdanovic, I thought he should have been going to a team that was contending. I don't have anything against the Detroit Pistons, but he's gone lights out in this game, 6 of 12 from 3 and dropped 33 points in a losing effort. To me, it's obviously brilliant for Detroit to have a veteran presence and help those players improve and kind of mature and things. This is a guy who could easily be on a contending team and still dropping mass amounts of points and being really valuable. So for them, still a good game, a young team, weren't able to pick up a win, but a very interesting one nonetheless.
So for the 29th of October, there was 4 games, and we'll kick it off with the game in focus as the first one was played. The Dallas Mavericks beat the Brooklyn Nets 129-125.
I think ultimately, I'm just really glad that the Mavs got a win, to be honest. We've been pretty all over the place so far. 20 out of 40 from three-point range. I wish we could do that every game, but obviously that's an anomaly. You're not going to do it every week.
But also, the Nets haven't had the greatest start. No. Either have they? They've lost a few, so
definitely not.
Finney Smith Jr. had 6. You had 11 from Dinwiddie. Doncic had 41, 14 assists and 11. I think when you're getting your key player involved that much, it should be a win, really. It's
the Luka Doncic show at the moment. I like what we did with the bench, though. Kleber with 15 points, shooting well. We also had 18 from Tim Hardaway Jr. He was my pick at the start of the season to get 6th man of the year, so I hope he continues that play. Christian Wood had 11 points in this game, which is massively below what he's been doing for us. He's actually been arguably joint 6th man for us at the moment. So, yeah, I think it was an all-round good performance.
Overall, from the Dallas Mavericks, even the benches, you can see there, 15 for Kleber, 18 for Hardaway, Wood had 11, Green had 10. But then you see the Brooklyn Nets, there was 37 points for KD, Irving had 39, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's
other than 2 others who had double figures, we had 10 each, but other than that, there's not much there.
That's the hard side about this roster, isn't it? It's so very offensively heavy with 2 players, and then everybody else is almost like everybody else just feels like a little bit of a stray piece, doesn't it? If that makes sense, no one feels almost like they're a real big part of the team. So I think that might be where they come unstuck for the year. But for the Mavericks, I wish we could shoot 20 or 40 every day. We'd probably win a championship quite comfortably that way.
So to finish for the 27th, the Thunder beat the Clippers 118-110. The Golden State Warriors beat the Miami Heat 123-110, and the Memphis Grizzlies defeated the Sacramento Kings 125-110.
So we're going to move on to the 28th of October now, where there was a total of 10 games. To start it off, it was the Atlanta Hawks getting a very, very convincing win, 136-112 over the Detroit Pistons. The Orlando Magic again picked up a win against the Hornets, 113-93. The game in focus was the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Boston Celtics, a couple of rivals out in the East who you would think really wanted to progress this year, probably even though they may be at different stages in regards to development, but it was 132-123 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Looks to be a little bit closer in regards to what the stats are telling us as to maybe the overall outcome of the game, if that makes sense. It looks though it was quite a close game all out.
Yeah, disappointing for the Celtics really. I would have liked them to beat the Cavs. Brown had 32, Tatum had 32. Overall, he looked to have played well. He just couldn't get it done really. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell now a Cavalier. He had 41.
Karis LeVert dropped 41 as well. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Letting two players score 41. I think it's bad when one player gets one.
82 are from two of your players. So.
Yeah. I think defensively, if you're going to allow two players to go off for 40 points, something's not quite right for the Celtics in that manner, isn't it? So I think that's probably... You're not going to win too many games where guys are dropping multiple 40 points against you, unfortunately. So
overall, the game was pretty close throughout the first four quarters, but in overtime, the Cleveland Cavaliers scored 18 to the Celtics 9, and that looks to be where they obviously pulled away there. So
yeah,
and that's what they wrote. So.
For the remainder of the games for that evening, Philadelphia 76ers 112-90 over the Toronto Raptors. The Indiana Pacers got a good win against the Washington Wizards 127-117. Milwaukee picked up another victory to remain undefeated 119-108 over the New York Knicks. The Minnesota Timberwolves took the Los Angeles Lakers to 0-5 with a 111-102 beating. The San Antonio Spurs managed to nick a win against the Chicago Bulls 129-124. Denver Nuggets continued their march up the Western Conference standings with a 117-101 victory. Phoenix Suns were able to sneak a victory 124-111 over the Pelicans, and the Portland Trail Blazers also managed to take a win over the Rockets 125-111.
So to finish for the 29th of October, we had 7 games in total played. We're going to focus on the Pacers versus the Nets in a 125-116 win for the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
Another shocking loss for the Nets. They're now 1-5.
Yeah, it's not looking good, unfortunately, is it? I was giving them all the benefit of the doubt in the predictions video, and it's starting to slap me right in the face now, unfortunately. But defensively, they look so terrible. You let a team shoot 50% from three and drain 23 three-point shots against you. It's ridiculous. I believe there was some comments after the game, wasn't there, from Steve Nash?
Yeah, over... Basically, someone asked him to sum up the team's effort and the defensive effort, and he basically just said it was a disaster. He also made a remark about asking the team, what do we do here? Do we just basically give up?
Yeah.
Which is an interesting comment from a coach that early on in the season, which I wouldn't blame Steve Nash if he's disgruntled and uninterested in the Brooklyn Nets with all the drama that surrounded them.
Yeah.
But it would be an interesting one to see how the Nets develop moving forward, I think.
Feels a little bit like the pressure's on him, doesn't it, unfortunately? And in these situations, a team doesn't get rid of half of its roster, does it? You always get rid of the coach. So he's probably feeling a little bit of the pressure. But for this game in particular, so yeah, it's massively one-sided in terms of the three-point shooting. The Pacers are more effective from the free-throw line. They out-rebound the Nets massively, 53-34. It's ridiculous. You can't expect to win games if you're going to give up every single rebound to the other team. And unfortunately, just a really tough game for the Brooklyn Nets. But Benedict Mathurin, 32 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Looking like he's really setting in the league, doesn't he? Especially coming off the bench.
Brilliant. And even take away the fact he's a bench player, you probably start him for the Pacers at this point with all the effort he's putting in. But no, he's doing brilliantly. You've got Buddy Hield as well, who had 17 points, who the Lakers have been rumoured with for a while.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see how that plays out. Overall, a good game for the Pacers and a subpar one for the Brooklyn Nets, sadly, but that seems to be the case of the season so far.
A little bit top heavy again in the Nets, isn't it? So you've got Kevin Durant scoring 26 points. He doesn't quite put up the same efficiency numbers. Shooting night was a little bit off. Kyrie Irving again goes for 35 on some pretty good efficiency.
Yeah.
But again, across the board, you get 11 points from Royce O'Neal, 11 from Joe Harris. You're not getting much from anyone else, really, are you, unfortunately?
Ben Simmons hasn't contributed much in any of these games for the Brooklyn Nets, so...
Not quite, no. I mean, he's got a triple single there, 9 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, but again, you're going to need a little bit more from a...
That's probably his better game, to be honest, out of the 60 plays.
Probably. At least he didn't get ejected from this one, so... But unfortunately, yeah, it's not looking too productive for the Brooklyn Nets, is it?
To finish for the games for that day, the OKC Thunder beat the Dallas Mavericks 117-111.
God damn it.
The Kings picked up their first win over the Miami Heat in a 119-113 win. The Hornets beat the Warriors 120-113. We then had the Sixers beat the Bulls 114-109. The Bucks beat the Hawks 123-115. And then we had the Jazz pick up another win. They're now 5-2, and they beat the Grizzlies 124-123.
They're a super team. I'm not having anybody tell me anything else. Utah Jazz are going to win the NBA championship. So moving on to the next bit now, we're going to have a quick look at a little record summary, but just kind of like teams form this week. The Los Angeles Lakers there, as you can see, that's 4 red L's and 5 red L's, I believe, sorry. off the top of our heads, when was the last time they finished? They started a season 0-5.
9 years, I think.
9
I believe
years.
it was 9 years. The last time they had an 0-5 start was the 14-15 season.
Okay, so it's been a little while, unfortunately. I'm really curious to see whether the Lakers' form actually changes, or whether in the next 20 games, how many wins would we predict them to have? What would they be? Maybe like 4-16, 5-15, that type of thing. But the Lakers, unfortunately, out west, they're definitely bottom of the conference. Some of the teams here that I feel are a little bit of a surprise: the San Antonio Spurs, they're 3-2. The Utah Jazz are 5-2. Again, I personally wasn't expecting these teams to be performing like that. The Portland Trail Blazers as well, 5-1, some really good starts. So, looking at that, is there any other particular surprises you found in terms of early season form so far for Western Conference teams?
Not a surprise. More disarray with the Sacramento Kings. I was hoping they were going to get some wins, and obviously they won the last game, but they had 4 losses up until the last game for the Kings and the Lakers. They were both on the same record, weren't they? And
0-4.
Lakers lost again, and obviously Sacramento picked up a win. So
for
the first time ever, the Kings are surpassing the Lakers.
Let's look at the glass half full then. Technically, the Kings are undefeated after last night.
Yeah.
Okay.
After last night, the Kings were undefeated.
Yeah. So print the T-shirt, lads. Get it out there. Get your banners.
Let's look at the summary for the East. We have the Milwaukee Bucks having a perfect week and a half with 5 straight wins.
We do.
Looks to be a strong start. We've got New York Knicks picking up 3 wins.
Yep.
Which is not a bad start at all.
Definitely not.
Atlanta Hawks with 4 wins and 2 losses. Good start for them. Boston would have liked to send a bit of a strong start. They won 3-2, so it's not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they find some good form soon. Orlando Magic obviously losing, and they're probably going to continue losing with 5 losses and 1 win.
Coincidentally, tied with Brooklyn for the worst Eastern Conference record.
Yeah, and then you've got Detroit Pistons as well. So yeah, they won and then they lost all the games. So pretty standard week, really. The biggest shock is probably the Nets.
At the minute, yeah, definitely.
In
terms of
Conference.
Underperforming, yeah, I'd definitely go with the Nets as being the most shocking there. There's no way anyone predicted that. I think Cleveland, I'm not sure if I'd have predicted them to be 1 loss, 4 wins in the first week and a half, sorry. I'm not sure I would have predicted that, but I think, I'm really happy with how they're looking. And as a team, when you make a big trade, you always wonder whether they're going to gel together. So far, it looks like that backcourt of Garland and Mitchell is fitting in with Mobley, with Jarrett Allen, that type of thing. So they must be pretty happy with themselves at the moment as well.
So the next segment we were going to look at is something called News Around the League. We're going to pick some stories to review.
Yeah.
So the first one on my list, Scott, was the NBA relegation idea. So this was spoken about recently, and I think it's been decided against now.
Okay.
But essentially, the NBA was considering a Euro-style relegation system to combat tanking.
It'd be an interesting one to see, wouldn't it? I would love to know what the prospect would have been, because for American sports, relegation isn't usually something that happens. Obviously, we're used to it being football fans, and when a team drops out the Premier League and they fall into the Championship. But for the NBA, would this essentially mean you drop down to the G League? Do you just?
It does, yeah. So teams would be demoted to the G League, but you then wouldn't get the same. I'm nothing against a Los Angeles G team.
Yeah.
But you're not drawing in what the Lakers draw in.
Definitely not. No,
so
definitely not.
It doesn't work. The whole setup of American sports isn't the same as to what we have over here in the UK or Europe.
Yeah.
For obviously football or basketball there, and even then, this is saying Euro style relegations. I don't know whether they mean this for the Euro League, where it's multiple teams from each league. Yeah. It's not the individual individual professional league, so it's not the Spanish professional league. Doesn't do this, I don't believe, because there's not that many.
League, isn't it?
Yeah. So it wouldn't work. Also, because of the financial structure that these leagues have, it just massively affect it. I think it'd.
The finance side.
It really hurt the NBA, I think.
Yeah, the finance side kind of really confuses me, because I don't think there's many G League teams with hundreds of millions of dollars tied up in players. And what would happen to your picks? Would they go to your team
also
that comes up?
The G League team wouldn't get the same revenue, because if you don't play in the Staples Center, well, what was the Staples Center? You don't play in the bigger arena, so it doesn't make any sense financially, does it?
Would it essentially just be a G League team comes up to the NBA, gets pumped for like 82 games and doesn't really play that well, no one's watching them, and then they just get relegated anyway? Is that it? Is that what would happen? I don't know. I don't really. I think in principle what they're trying to do is come up with a way to combat tanking,
which is a good idea. Because
Yeah,
I hate the thought of fans basically paying to watch a game.
Oh,
lose
God, yeah.
To watch a team lose on purpose. It's pointless. But looking at the standings at the minute, the Lakers are the worst team in the league,
and they're not tanking.
Is LeBron gonna go and play in the G League? Is my question.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. And you would have to be able to be definitive between what was a season in which a team was really bad and just were bad, or what was a time where a team actively played bad and tanked, that type of stuff. The Lakers at the minute, they're not tanking because they don't own their own picks. If they finish dead last this year, that benefits the Pelicans because they've got the pick. So the Lakers aren't tanking; they're just really bad. But I'd love to know what a solution could be. If anyone's got any ideas, let us know. I just think with the way the NBA is structured, I think it's
not that.
I don't think this is the idea personally, but it's an interesting one to consider. But logistically, doesn't seem to match up, does it?
It wouldn't make any sense.
No, unfortunately not.
So to move on, obviously we've mentioned the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers 0-5 start was just another thing I put down, just because it's the worst start in, I believe, 9 years. So
yeah,
it's a shock overall. I was listening to Charles Barkley's comments about Russell Westbrook and stuff, so he just looks to be very uninterested, and he looks like very unhappy with the game of basketball overall, and I do feel for him in that respect.
Yeah.
Last year I was pretty annoyed with Russell Westbrook and also Anthony Davis. Sometimes just the lack of effort, the poor shots they just throw up. There's just no regard for any good shots overall, and you end up getting pretty frustrated. But you look at it now and you sort of would like a good ending for Russ, but I don't see one happening.
No.
I don't know who's going to come in for him. And ultimately, every loss, it's because of Russell Westbrook, and really, they're no better without Russell Westbrook.
They're not, and I think he's becoming the scapegoat now, isn't he? It's too easy to say, we'll lose him because of Westbrook, we'll lose him because he's on the team. He didn't play, was it the Denver game? I feel he sat out with his hamstring, was that, I think? And they still went on to lose the game anyway. So it's quite clearly not Russell Westbrook. And you only have to look. So the top three names on this team are LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook. Your next biggest name after that is probably Patrick Beverley. If your fourth best player on your team is Patrick Beverley, that probably shows that your roster's not built to continue.
It's not a Los Angeles Lakers roster.
No, it's not a Lakers roster, and it's far too easy to blame Russ. Where I do feel he does hold accountability is he has to make better decisions. Doesn't mean you have to go to shooting 40% from three. Doesn't mean you have to average a triple-double again.
Just have better shot selection.
Better shot selection. Less turnovers, if possible. Try and get your assist-to-turnover ratio a little bit better. But to give Russ a little bit of credit here, if no one on the team's bloody moving for the ball, you can't just. What a team's meant to do, they're gonna snatch the pass, aren't they? So I think in general, it's too easy to just say, "Oh, it's Russ's fault. Just trade him, get rid of it." That's not going to do anything.
I'd like him to be traded because I think it would be best on both parts.
Oh yeah.
It'd stop the blame on him then as well.
Yeah.
When the Lakers do bad this season, which they will do.
Yeah.
It's already it's not just Russell Westbrook at all. You can see that team is poorly constructed. So if he's moved on, you can't blame him.
At the very least, it opens up something else, doesn't it? But I think it's just too easy to blame him, unfortunately, and keep ragging on him. It's not like the rest of the roster's been great and every loss has been Westbrook's. Where I'd say he definitely lost one, the Blazers game. 27 seconds left, you're up by one, and in his mind, he's thinking, let's go 2 for 1. No, when you're winning and you've got the ball, you run the clock down. So he takes an ill-advised jumper, clanks it off the rim, and he gets subbed out straight away, and the Lakers then go on to lose the game. I'd say that one, I'll give him that. If I'm a Lakers fan, I'd say, yeah, that was your fault. You need to do better there, mate. But other than that, no one on this roster is playing well. At the minute, for the Lakers to just get to a 500 team, that would mean winning 5 games. Can you see them winning 5 games in the next 15? I don't think so.
I've just got the fixtures up now. Next against the Nuggets.
Probably not winning.
No, I don't see them winning. Against the Pelicans, I don't really see them winning.
Zion was playing, I don't think so, because there's no interior presence at the Lakers.
I know you would have chalked this up for a win, but they're against your mighty Utah Jazz. So they're probably
the super team?
They're going to lose to the Utah Jazz as well. And then they're against the Cavs with Donovan Mitchell. So they could potentially lose the next 4. Realistically, you would say they could win 2 of the next 4, maybe.
At a push, but you'd expect them to. That would be, you'd have to play significantly better than you have, and those other teams would probably need to play a little bit subpar.
I'd say if out of them, they could maybe beat the Pelicans and Jazz. I'd pick them to lose against the Cavs and the Nuggets.
I'm picking nobody. The Super Jazz versus anybody, I'm picking the Super Jazz. From now on, they're a dominant team.
But that would then be 0-9, which is once again just...
Oh God, could you imagine?
It's not the LeBron end. It's not the ending that you want to LeBron's career.
No,
Russell Westbrook, really.
Definitely not.
Do you see this team being split up before the end of the year?
Well, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Something needs to change because the Lakers season last year was basically this roster, minus Pat Bev, and they finished with 33 wins. At the minute, for the Lakers to go for 33 wins, I think would be quite impressive this year. At the minute with how it started,
yeah, it would, yeah.
I'd say that's not a bad season for them. So the problem is to get rid of Russell, because I was reading something the other day about obviously talking about people wanting Westbrook to leave. The problem you've got now is his values drop so low.
You won't get anything.
Teams aren't going to want to take him on. No, he's a big salary, so they're going to need to send players back to match the salary up. So I think he's on 47 million. So even if you send your role players, you're going to have to give up 3 role players for Russ. You're going to want picks back. The Lakers aren't going to want to give up picks because, well, they're getting bad. These picks are now valuable. So it's not just a case of, get rid of Westbrook and it'll all turn out well. I think they probably need a couple of moves, unfortunately. At this point, AD might be the most valuable trade piece of the puzzle you've got in terms of being able to get something back for him despite his injuries. You may have to start looking at trading both to try and get something back to put around LeBron. So, but I don't dislike the Lakers. I don't really dislike any team apart from the Kings. And to see this for LeBron's last few years, it's horrible for his legacy, in my opinion.
So to finish for this, I've put down Ben Simmons' fall off.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, Ben Simmons overall, he seems very uninterested. Not just very uninterested, just lost in the game of basketball.
A shell of his former self.
It's sad to see. I don't mean that not to just disrespect him and say how poor he's been playing. He just doesn't look like himself at all, does he? It's strange to see. It's sad to see, really, because he showed so much promise as a defensive player early on in his career. Obviously, he was an all-star and stuff as well. What's your take on it, Scott?
He looks lost. He just looks like he's almost forgotten to play the game of basketball. Not to take the mickey out of him too much, but the scene in Space Jam where they touch the ball and they lose the talent? Yeah, seriously. This is what kind of... But it's happened in real life, so to speak. So we should try and make a team of people who've lost the talent. Westbrook and Simmons. Maybe put them on a 2K team and see how... maybe they go 0-82 or are they able to sneak a win, potentially.
Who else could we put on? Kwame Brown.
I don't know if he ever had the talent, did he? I'm not too sure. But anyway, for Ben Simmons, as much as we're maybe having a little bit of a laugh at him, it is harsh to see. We're looking at a guy who at one point was getting triple doubles like it was nobody's business. Up until last year where he didn't play, he was very much considered to be a defensive player of the year candidate for the Philadelphia 76ers. So he obviously can do it, but at the minute he just looks so lost. He looks like he doesn't know what he's trying to do. If I were to read you these stat lines, 6 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and I was telling you this guy was one of the highest paid players in the league, you'd be asking yourself the question straight away, why? Why is that happening? Why are we paying this guy so much money when we get nothing from it, essentially? 46% from the free throw line this year. 2 games where he's been ejected. At first, I was willing to give... the first ejection, I was willing to give that as rust. You've not played for a year.
I thought it was being very clumsy.
Well, I was willing to chalk it up to you haven't played for a year. The rules maybe have changed a little bit in terms of the physicality side of it this year. Maybe it's not allowed to be as physical, and Ben's adjusting to that. The second ejection, no. It's not rust now. This is just silly plays, as you said. This is just making bad mistakes. And for the Nets, you traded Harden for this guy. That's what you gave up. We need to keep that in mind. The theory has been Ben doesn't need to shoot. Just let him defend. Brooklyn Nets have got the worst defensive record in the NBA.
No, he's been poor defensively. So
he's not contributing even on the side of the ball where historically it's been this is his strong suit. He can match up 1 through 4. So what do you think happens with him? Are we thinking maybe Brooklyn make a move?
It's not even that you're trying to say how poor he is. He generally looks lost.
Yeah, he does. He does. Poor guy.
And it seems a bit strong to say, but doesn't look like he'll finish out the season right now. He just looks like he'll probably, get shipped off somewhere.
Yeah, I could see them trying to package a deal for him.
Yeah. at this point, I don't see it ending well in Brooklyn for him.
No.
I wouldn't put my hat on and say it's definitely this season he goes, but it doesn't look to be a good ending so far for his career.
It's looking like a really strange season for him, and I think there's a lot of stuff that's going on there. So, as you mentioned with Steve Nash, his comments, that doesn't sound like a coach who's feeling like he's got much time. He's maybe feeling like the pressure's on. You've got Ben Simmons, who, to call it underperforming, I think is being generous, but to not rag on him too much, that's what he's doing. You've got two guys who are snipers, scoring, but don't defend, and that's evident in the defensive effort and the defensive numbers. I know I'm feeling at the minute like I made a mistake putting them fourth in the East. I was willing to give a little bit of stock, but could be a really ugly season for the Brooklyn Nets, unfortunately.
Finishing ninth, so I'm okay so far.
Yeah, even that is a bit generous because they're technically 15th in the East at the minute, aren't they, unfortunately? But yeah, it's a difficult one to see for Brooklyn.
So to finish on a more positive note.
Yes, let's try and be happy about this.
Yeah, so we've picked our player of the week and our rookie of the week, just something we'll do each week. To try and highlight some good play. So for rookie of the week, we've went with Benedict Maturin. He's averaging 27 minutes a game. He's averaging 21 points on 45% shooting, 43 from the 3-point line, free throws 87%. 4.6 rebounds a game and 2.3 assists a game.
Yep.
That's brilliant, really, for a rookie, and considering he's coming off the bench as well to contribute that much.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I think whenever you see those type of numbers from a rookie, you've always got to be impressed. The thing that's impressed me the most with him is the fact that Indiana were obviously expected to be a team that's, shall we say, not trying the hardest to win games, shall we say. They stand 3-4 at the beginning. I know you can't take too much stock in the first opening week and a half, but he looks like he's really settled into the NBA and he's fun to watch. He's playing well, he's playing good basketball, and yeah, I think I know he was for me earlier on the week when we were talking about let's pick a rookie, let's pick a player of the week. He was one of the first names that came to mind. So yeah, I've really enjoyed watching him play so far.
Yeah, as we said before, he played brilliantly against Brooklyn. He had 32 points. 5 rebounds. But watching the highlights of that game, he's just brilliant to watch. He can contribute everywhere, really.
Seems to do a little bit of everything, doesn't he?
So they look to have a tremendous pick, and it'll be interesting to see him progress in the future, because Indiana really is a place for him to show his skills.
Yeah, he's going to get time. There's no pressure on him in terms of needing... This team isn't trying to make the playoffs, are they? Let's be totally honest. That's not going to happen. But you know what I would like to see? If he could win not Rookie of the Year, because I think that someone might already be penciled in for that one, but if he were to win Sixth Man of the Year in his rookie season, he may be the first ever person to win Sixth Man of the Year as a rookie. I think that'd be so cool to be able to put your name to that and have a positive season in Indiana. But as I said, when I was watching him earlier in the week,
but fingers crossed, the only way is up for him.
Yeah, definitely, it's been great to
10
see.
10 from the line.
Looking forward to seeing him continue to play for the rest of the year.
So for our player of the week, we went with the beast that is Ja Morant. He's averaging 32.6 points a game, Scott, on 32.9 minutes a game.
You could say it's efficient.
Very efficient. Yeah, he's on 52.9% from the field goal, 56%, well over 56% from three-point range, 87% from the free throw line, 4.4 assists a game. 4.4 rebounds a game, 6.8 assists a game. Overall, he's doing brilliantly, and he's helped the Memphis Grizzlies go 4-2.
Yeah,
so
can't argue with them numbers. No. That's ridiculous. What I would say, and this is not to pin him down in any way, so no one's going to shoot 52% from three for the rest of the year, are they? But at the minute, he's showing he's obviously
lights out.
Yeah, it looks like everything he's touching is just going in, isn't it? So, again, the Memphis Grizzlies, I'm sure for that team, they're hoping to progress this year. It looks like Ja was the most improved player last year, wasn't it? It looks like he's now taken that step to where he's MVP.
He's going to be in that MVP running.
He's going to be a top 5 candidate there, and he's going to be your first starter for the West, probably with Steph Curry, that type of thing. He's going to be in the MVP voting. He's probably going to be named first All-NBA. So it looks like he's kind of taken that turn, which is really good for the Grizzlies in terms of being able to develop talent. But my God, just watching him play, it's ridiculous. It seems like everything he's doing is turning into gold. So
that's it for this week's Basketball Talks NBA recap. Join us next week for some more.